Born out of a three-way argument between Eastern, United and American Airlines, the Boeing 727 was a compromise that became a legend. Boeing launched the program in December 1960, and the first aircraft flew on February 9, 1963. Eastern Airlines put it into service on February 1, 1964. Powered by three rear-mounted Pratt & Whitney JT8D engines, it seated up to 189 passengers and could land on short runways larger jets couldn't touch. That flexibility made it unstoppable. Orders crossed 1,000 by 1972, making it the best-selling airliner in history at the time. United, Delta, Lufthansa and over 100 airlines flew it. It became infamous when hijacker D.B. Cooper parachuted from its rear staircase mid-flight in 1971. Production ran until 1984, totaling 1,832 aircraft. The Trident was the world's first commercial trijet and aviation's greatest what-if. Designed by de Havilland in the late 1950s, it attracted early interest from American Airlines. But BEA convinced the manufacturer to shrink it for European short-haul routes, and American walked away, choosing the Boeing 727 instead. Rebranded the HS-121 Trident after that merger, it entered BEA service on April 1, 1964. Powered by three Rolls-Royce Spey engines, it cruised at a blistering Mach 0.88. On November 4, 1966, it became the first airliner to perform a fully automatic blind landing in revenue service. British Airways, Cyprus Airways, Iraqi Airways and China's CAAC flew it. Only 117 were ever built against the 727's 1,832. China retired its last Tridents in the mid-1990s. The L-1011 TriStar was arguably the most advanced airliner of its era, and that sophistication nearly destroyed Lockheed. Launched in 1966, it first flew in November 1970 and entered service with Eastern Airlines on April 26, 1972. Powered by three Rolls-Royce RB211 engines, it seated up to 400 passengers. When Rolls-Royce went bankrupt from RB211 development costs in 1971, the US Senate saved Lockheed by a single vote. The TriStar featured a fly-by-wire autopilot capable of landing itself in zero visibility, years ahead of its time. Delta was its biggest customer with 70 aircraft. TWA called it the safest plane in the world. Despite its brilliance, only 250 were built. The program ended in 1984, and the losses forced Lockheed out of commercial aviation permanently. The DC-10 was built to win, and it did, at first. McDonnell Douglas launched the widebody trijet in the late 1960s. It first flew at August 29, 1970, and American Airlines put it into service in August 1971, beating the rival L-1011 to market by nearly a year. United, KLM, Continental and dozens more airlines followed. But the DC-10 built a dark safety record. In 1974, Turkish Airlines Flight 981 crashed near Paris after a cargo door failure, killing all 346. In 1979, American Airlines Flight 191 shed an engine on takeoff from O'Hare, killing 273, the deadliest US aviation disaster ever. Months later, Air New Zealand flew into Mount Erebus. The FAA grounded all DC-10s for over a month. The type was redesigned and soldiered on. 386 were built. FedEx still flies converted freighters. The MD-11 was supposed to save McDonnell Douglas. Launched in December 1986 as a stretched, modernized DC-10, it featured a two-pilot glass cockpit, winglets and a longer fuselage. First flight was January 10, 1990, and it entered airline service later that year. KLM, Delta, American, Swiss Air, Lufthansa Cargo and JAL flew it on intercontinental routes, carrying up to 410 passengers across 12,000 kilometers. But the MD-11 fell short of its promised performance. Orders dried up and only 200 were built. McDonnell Douglas merged with Boeing in 1997 and production ended in 2001. Passenger airlines retired it through the 2000s. KLM flew the last scheduled passenger service in 2014. The MD-11F freighter lives on with FedEx, the last widebody trijet ever built. If the Boeing 727 was the backbone of Western aviation, The Tu-154 was its Soviet counterpart. Developed in the mid-1960s, it first flew October 4, 1968, and entered full Aeroflot service in February 1972. 3 rear-mounted turbofans and a rugged undercarriage let it operate from unpaved Siberian airstrips that would ground Western jets entirely. At peak, Aeroflot used it to carry over 137 million passengers per year, half of its entire ridership. Eastern Bloc carriers LOT, CSA and Interflug flew it across Europe. Cuba, China, Iran and North Korea flew it internationally. Its safety record was mixed. The 2010 crash near Smolensk killed Poland's president. Over 1,026 were built between 1968 and 2013, making it the most produced Soviet airliner in history. The Yak-40 fills a unique corner of aviation history. A small trijet built to serve the barely there airfields of the Soviet Union's most remote regions. First flown in October 1966, it entered Aeroflot service in 1968. 3 rear-mounted Ivchenko AI-25 engines gave it short-field capability from unpaved strips no Western regional jet could reach. It carried just 24 to 32 passengers, but it connected Siberian villages and Central Asian towns to the wider Soviet network for the first time. It was exported to Afghanistan, Cuba, Vietnam and several African nations. Over 1,011 were built between 1967 and 1981, making it one of the most produced regional jets of the 20th century. Decades after production ended, a handful still operate in limited roles today. The Yak-42 was the Soviet Union's push for a modern, fuel-efficient narrow-body jet. Development began in 1972 as a scaled-up follow-up to the Yak-40, targeting medium-haul routes with up to 120 passengers. Notably, it was the first Soviet airliner powered by high-bypass turbofan engines, 3 rear-mounted Lotarev D-36s, making it quieter and cleaner than older Soviet types. The first prototype flew March 7, 1975, and it entered Aeroflot service in December 1980 as a Tu-134 replacement. It flew domestically across the USSR and was exported to Cuba, China and others. Production ran through 2003, totaling 187 aircraft. In 2011, a crash killed most of the Lokomotiv Yaroslavl hockey team, bringing grim international attention to the type. A small number still fly in Russia today.